I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-lined broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Hey, Coos County. Hey, Oregon. Hey, America and beyond. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Part of today's show is pre-recorded. Part of the reason is the guest, Diane Rich, couldn't be here today, Monday. She had other engagements. And so she's taking care of business. And I went ahead and taped her on Saturday talking about an idea that she has to help the county out of some of its financial problems. And, anytime you come up with a solution, there are always good consequences and bad consequences you can find in any solution. And we are going to have to pay a price no matter what in this county. I don't know. We just we voted for the bond levy. We voted against it. We voted against the bond levy. The bond levy failed. 60% of us said we would rather have the police department, we'd rather have the DA go ahead and have to take cuts along with many of the other departments in the county, because I think every department in the county that's funded through the general fund is being cut. All of them are being cut. And the commissioners have cut their salaries. And I found someone sent me a law that says that salaried employees have to make a certain amount of money. And the commissioners last week just voted to cut their salary down to $30,000. I think the salary was, I'm not sure. I think I've heard different numbers, 67,000, 72,000, somewhere in there. And I've heard different numbers of how much they used to make, but they voted last week. Commissioners Rod Taylor, Commissioners Bob Main decided to cut their salary. And I found out that they may not be legally able to do that. So I put in a call to Boley, because Boley was the one who was in charge of this. I think it's an OAS. It's an Oregon Administrative Rule, and OARS, American Oregon Administrative Rules. And so I called Boley because they were the ones who were in charge of this, and they haven't gotten back to me. So I don't even know if it's legal for the county commissioners to cut their salary or not. So it's going to be interesting to find out, and we'll get into that once I figure it out where we are with that, because that may change the situation of why they cut their salaries. And we'll talk about that at another time. I do want to mention right now that we are playing Where's 3H Tree Service. I haven't gotten back. Matt Holman hasn't gotten back to me. And so we're playing 3H Tree Service, and we are in the middle of it. And if you don't live in Coos County, you can't really play unless you want to drive over here to Coos County. You want to drive over to Coos County? Hey, come on over. So I'm going to put up the banner. Today's round of Where's 3H Tree Service has started officially. I think Matt started it at 2:30, and I don't know where he is. He hasn't given me any hints, but if you find 3H Tree Service and Matt's on the scene, you can collect $50 from him. And remember, we do have several rules. If you're a contractor, have worked hiring Matt, then you are ineligible to win. If you've won in the past 30 days, you are ineligible to win. If you're a family or friend, I'm not even sure we included friends, just families. if you're a family member of the Holman family, you are not eligible to win. And of course, if you're a known criminal, you're not eligible to win the $50 that they give away, usually almost every week when we play Where's 3H Tree Service. And the reason we don't give to criminals is, hey, we're not going to fund your fentanyl habit. We already do that through our tax dollars. So we don't want to do that by giving any homeless, criminal, and I shouldn't really put in the word homeless, because there are plenty of criminals who have homes, and we don't want them to win this $50 either. So if you're a known criminal in Coos County, don't even bother playing this game, because we don't give money. We don't give prize winnings to home druggies. It's just not something we do. Not what can I tell you? I don't want to fund all your bad habits when we pay so much in welfare, so much in healthcare for people who are not even trying to help themselves. That's what blows my mind, is why are we continuously giving Narcan and reviving these people who are ODing on drugs, who are living in the streets, who don't take any good care of themselves. I don't know why we give them medical treatment. At this point, it just blows my mind. They want to kill themselves. I think we should expedite the entire process of allowing them to kill themselves. It's unfortunate. It's a bad thing to have to live with, but that's where I'm at in society. As someone who's tired of listening to a lot of friends, a lot of loved ones, a lot of you out there talking about how much you work and how little you get for the work you do, and you're not getting anywhere. And you're constantly being asked by the government to pay for this program, that program. They want more of your taxes. I don't think you should have to give it up for derelicts of society. I don't think that's right. And so that's why if you play Where's 3H Tree Service, don't bother playing if you're a known criminal in the county. And you pretty much have to live in the county, because they're all over the area. They could be in Coos Bay, they could be in North Bend, any of the cities, or they could be in rural Coos County. Who knows? But he did send me a message, and I'm talking about him. I'm talking about Matt Holman. He did send me a message saying that they're starting at 2:30. So we got this all kicked off. We've got a special meeting that's going to be happening here in Bandon. Of all the places, we're going to be having a meeting. And it's not really a meeting, it's an event, because this guy, believe me, if you haven't seen Dr. Douglas Frank, if you haven't seen him in action, then you don't know what you're missing. But Dr. Douglas Frank, he is going to be here in Bandon on July 1st, 6:30 p.m. That's a Monday. And he's going to be at the Restoration Worship Center. If you all know where Ray's is in Bandon, Restoration Worship Center is right across the street. Try to say that 3 times. Restoration Worship Center. It's you come out, if you start saying it 3 times really fast, you come out with Worcestershire sauce, I think but Restoration Worship Center. And I highly recommend you people go out and check out Dr. Douglas Frank. I've had him on the show when I had a radio show. I've had him on the show. He's a really great guest, and he's just phenomenal at throwing out the numbers and the facts on from the data that he has basically learned forwards and backwards from many different states, from many different regions, and Oregon is one of those regions that he keeps a track on. And so we're going to have him here, and I shouldn't say we, a good friend of mine, Marty Kurt is going to go and pick him up and take him to a few different events through Oregon. So I get to give a shout out to Marty. Marty, thank you for doing all that for all the people of Oregon, especially here in Bandon, because I think it's going to be an exciting event. And what else do you got to do on a Monday night? In fact, this is how excited I am about it. I'm going to postpone the show until about 6 o'clock. I'll call Marty and see if I can get an interview with Dr. Frank at 6 o'clock, and then film the entire event from 6:30 on. And that will be my show next week. So next week, be prepared. The show won't be on at 3 o'clock. It'll be on hopefully at 6 o'clock. And we'll be talking to Dr. Douglas Frank and some of the people who attend the meeting, because I want to get some feedback of what they thought of his presentation. And so it's kind of cool that I'm getting this opportunity to film on location. We're going to be doing that more throughout the summer. I've been trying to do more videos from the protest we've had. And to be honest with you, the wind has been so bad. you can hardly hear the people who are talking. So, that's going to have to change, and we'll get around to that. But once again, I would remind you, there is an event, Dr. Douglas Frank, next Monday, July 1st, 6:30 p.m. at the Restoration Worship Center across from Ray's in Bandon. And we are in the game, Where's 3H Tree Service? If you can find out where's 3H Service is, then you can go and win your prize. And I think he's giving away $50 today. And so I just had to go over that. Like I said, I got most of the show pre-recorded, and I'm going to go into that. I'm going to start recording it and see how it plays through, because I was having a little bit of technical difficulty with it. So we'll see if it actually plays on this page, on this program to stream to all the other social media platforms, such as Twitter and Rumble and YouTube, because that's where, if you're watching this, you have to be catching me. I normally stream on Facebook, but I've been having so much problems streaming on Facebook, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I just said, screw it, I'm done. I will post. Go to Rumble to watch this podcast. That's what I did for Facebook. So I would recommend, if you are on Facebook and you're watching this, or I'm sorry, if you're on Twitter or YouTube, I would switch and get an account over at Rumble, because at some point YouTube is probably going to kick me off. And I still, Elon Musk has been doing a great job. Twitter has reformed it, but I don't know if I can trust the guy. So I would just go to Rumble, because Rumble seems to be a solid platform for people like, me and Dr. Frank and many others who are considered to be right-wing extremists. Most of my audience are right-wing extremists. That's okay. So I've got a special video here that I'm going to play for you with my interview with Diane Rich. And we were talking about the county and how we may be able to save the county a little bit of money by doing what she was calling a consolidation program here in the county. And that's consolidating the sheriff's office with the police departments of all the major cities. And I thought that was, it was an interesting idea. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. So I'm sitting here with Diane Rich, and the focus of this segment of the show is going to be dealing with the county commissioners trying to change our taxing structure for the county's district. They wanted to add a 2% tax, and I shouldn't say they, Rod Taylor, commissioner,
Years old, named Lee Womack. Now, Lee was the gentleman who wrote the book on lean manufacturing. And the U.S. government, of course, I was a military contractor for 15 years. And the General Service Administration is the largest customer in the world, and that's the federal government. And back when I was when I was a contracting officer, one of the goals of the United States government was to make sure that they had a complete solution. And I believe that the commissioner has missed the complete solution that looking at this problem. Coming from Utah, a state where the sales tax varies between 6.5 up to 11%, I think opening the door on a sales tax is really not a good idea and something that we should oppose until the bitter end. one of the things that we did with regard to the federal government and how we do business in Utah is that if you look at the county, you have the sheriff's department, and then you have all of the cities. And all of the cities have their own police departments, and all of the cities have their own city attorney. Now, if you were to unify those departments, number one, you'd have better communication between all of the police in the county because they'd be one force. Number two, you'd have buying power for all the HR. You'd have buying power for all of the new cruisers that you need and all the equipment that you need. And instead of adding a tax, you'd actually be tightening your own belt within the county and the city and making a better department that would better serve all the people at a reduced cost. Now, this is something that we've done in Utah for over 20 years. So I know that this can work. And basically, instead of having cruisers that would say Coos Bay, North Bend, Myrtle Point police departments and sheriff's departments, what they do is they all say unified Coos police. And this is really something that has been tried in other areas and has worked extremely well. So, rather than rushing into just adding a tax, I think we need to look at how we can create a complete solution to this problem. Rob, that the district attorney needs help, right?
Right.
That we have under the auspice of the prosecutor's department. And you would have all of the cities controlled by the prosecutor. All of the legal dealings would be done through the prosecutor's office. So all of a sudden, all that money would go to the areas that need the money.
Only the criminality is what you're talking about. And only laws that are broken that are criminal offenses, not civil offenses, not the attorneys that the city needs for different contracts and negotiations that they're going through. You're just talking about the prosecutor, the DA being in charge of all the lawyers for the cities as far as anything that's a crime, right?
Well, why couldn't they do all? I don't understand why they couldn't be all together to do all of these things.
Because they're not going to be, and here's the argument you're going to get back on this, is that when the city hires an attorney, they want them arguing for the city and not for the county at the county's benefit. They want someone who's going to be representing the city and the city's benefit, because there are times when the counties and the cities are at odds.
Well, that may be true too. But right now, we don't have enough money to fund those two separately. And maybe if they use their joint assets, we'd have enough money. But I do think that it's a very good idea to do a unified police department. And this has happened. Utah's not the only state that has done this. And as I said, they've been doing this for over 20 years. So there must be a great benefit, or they wouldn't have done it or continued to do so. And I think it's something.
What counties are they? Do you know offhand what counties?
Salt Lake County is one that has done this for 20 years. I worked specifically with the sheriff there in that county, and it worked very well. And basically, the most important thing that they found by unifying those police departments, as I mentioned in the beginning, was that if a person and I'm just going to use our county's names, if a person commits a crime in Bandon, the police are unified. So that same person then comes to Coos Bay, they're wanted in Coos Bay, and everyone knows in Coos Bay what has happened in Bandon. Where if the police departments are all separate, there's a great opportunity that they don't know what has happened in Bandon. So it's just a really good tool to improve the strength of their departments and increase their communications.
So what you would have to do to make this argument for the commissioners, because they're going to want evidence, they're going to want you to be able to show them some hard numbers going back from the counties that you said that this is happening in Utah, from the time that they went to a unified police department for the entire county instead of using cities independently. And my question to you is, what cities are inside? What was the county you said you lived in again?
Okay, Salt Lake County, and the sheriff's name was Pete Hayward.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the cities that were there were Salt Lake City, Murray, Draper, and Holiday.
Yeah.
And those are the main cities. We're talking about approximately 1.5 million people that were served within those cities within that county. And all they have to do is contact the Salt Lake City Unified Police Department to get those figures. It would be very easy for them to give them any pros or cons, because obviously I'm aware of the pros, but there may be some cons against this as well. But what I do know is that it's really easy for government to say, hey, let's throw another tax at our citizens.
Oh,
And
it's incredibly easy.
Afford any more taxes right now. The inflation on our food alone is much too high. We need people who think out of the box and come up with more clever solutions than adding another tax.
And in lies the problem, because they're a one-trick pony, especially John Sweet. All he knows is tax, tax, tax.
Right.
And Rod Taylor ran on a no tax platform, which now is once again going to be going against the grain of what he ran on during his campaign. So that may be a problem for him selling this tax. One of the other problems that I see is that once we get a tax here, and if the county is successful in doing this, which I think it's going to be almost damn near impossible for them to pass a new tax, that they will try this in Douglas County. They will try this in Curry County. The cities will start wanting to do their own sales tax, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. That's where I see this
No
going.
effect, Rob. It'll be an absolute domino effect.
Right.
I let this genie out of the bottle. This is not a good idea, and it will never be a good idea. You need to tighten your belt. Right now, it's not a situation where you can add another tax. You have to be creative and lean in the systems that you are operating. And that will give you the money that you need. And I think that the taxpayers have already stood up and said no in the last election.
I want to talk about that more, but let's stick with this, your idea of consolidation, because I think when I've been part of any business taking over another business, we always consolidate the two. You consolidate any redundant activities that you're doing, because why have one store doing the same thing that another store can do for both if you have a home store? And you have even more than just one or two stores. And so, when you take over something, why would you let that redundancy continue? And government is known for redundant programs, redundant activities. And so consolidation might be a really good idea to try in the county. But I think the one resistance you're going to get is the police from the cities, the chief of police, and their unions, and probably the city council. And it's not that it's a good or a bad idea that they're going to be arguing, is they're going to be doing it because anytime you take away budgets, authority, and money away from cities, they don't like it. It's like taking away a utility and trying to privatize it. And I think that would be your biggest obstacle about going with this. And that's why we really need some really good hard numbers to figure out, if it's worth it or not. Because I think if it's working in Utah, I think the program would show.
Well, they've only been doing it in Utah for 20 years. So I think there's
Right.
probably pretty good data that shows that this is the only way that they could go forward. Now, I know you and I have sat through several Board of Commission meetings when the sheriff has said that they have lost their sheriffs that they have.
Yeah.
Now, if they were unified and everyone was on the same pay scale, that would no longer be a problem. So that would be.
I don't know how that works. Now, that might be something else, Diane, that we would have to look into, because what if the police are paid more than the sheriff's deputies? And then if you got the sheriff to take over that department, he'd have to increase the wages from the police that he takes over, the police departments that he takes over. He'd have to increase the salary to match for his law enforcement. That would be something we'd have to find out.
Now, let's look at this logically. If you've got 5 chiefs of police, and now you have no chiefs of police, you have a sheriff.
Right.
How many jobs have you now? You've lowered the pay scale. And when you go to buy cruisers, instead of buying one cruiser here, one cruiser there, you're buying them in bulk. You're going to get the price. If you're buying life insurance, if you're buying HR services, and you do it for the entire county instead of independent police departments, you're obviously going to get a better price. All of these things would make it so that they'd have a much better way to run the entire county. And that, in the end, is the service that the citizens require. You and I don't care whether the police car says Unified Police of Coos County or if it says North Bend Police Department. We don't care.
As long as it don't have a pride flag on it, I really don't care what color.
There you go. There you go. And the cost that in the end, by streamlining and keeping everything lean, saves the citizens money and provides better service.
Well, that's what I said about consolidation. Consolidation limits a lot of expenses that 2 different businesses would have. Once they're joined together, you can consolidate a lot of those activities and save a lot of money. So I definitely see the advantage there. We're just going to have to figure out some of the nuances that you and I probably even haven't figured out, because they're going to be, you know what I mean? There are people in the police department and people in the sheriff's department who may have a different view of this and ask questions that we don't know to ask right now.
Well, if they use the systems that are already in place, if they ask the people that are they've already gone through the education and say, what were the benefits? What was the downside of what happened? It's a lot better than trying to push another tax on the taxpayers when we've already said no.
Right.
This is not going to go forward. It's a ridiculous concept to try to push it forward. It's much better to look in a different direction and see what can be done and what can be done better than what we're currently doing. I mean, I look at Coos Bay and North Bend, and I'm not from this area. I don't see there's a real big difference between either one of those cities. I know I'm going to make people really angry by saying this, but I don't see a need to have 2 libraries. I think one library that could be used by all the citizens in that area saves a lot of money. And at this point in time, we don't have extra money to put up 1,000 signs that say Coos Bay and North Bend, and or to build another library. We have a great library in North Bend that will serve the needs of all the citizens in Coos Bay and North Bend. So to have more taxes to build another one just to be able to say it's in Coos Bay is quite ridiculous from my point of view.
Look at the library in Bandon. Have you ever been to the library in Bandon?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's a mausoleum. It's huge. It's this huge library, and it's got skylights in the top of it. It's got hanging plants in there. It's and they just really overdid it, and we know they overdid it. They just recently had to go to the citizens and ask the citizens to donate money to pay for the electric bills, and So, and I know you and I, we have a good friend named Marty. He loves the library, but I could do away with the whole library system. And any way that we can find to chop away at the expense of what the libraries take, I'd love to do it. And I'd like to see a consolidation that way as well. So,
well, I use my library card, but I use it for online. So I don't go to the library. If I need a reference material, I'll use it online. And that way you're not really tied into having a brick and mortar library. You can go ahead and have everything on an intranet that people can access. And most of all, it's like, we just don't need more buildings to heat, keep cool, and have people. We just don't need those. What we need to have is knowledge. And we need to look into different ways of doing things and check out how others are doing things to save money and be able to provide better service. And
I think they should be asking for volunteers at the library, because how many of those how many employees do we have at the library, and all of them have to be on PERS. So they're part of that system that's just gobbling up all our money. And it seems like it would be better if we did consolidate the libraries even more and had more people volunteer, because like I said, I don't get any benefit of the library, none whatsoever. I don't go to the libraries. I don't use the library, and it's not fair that I have to pay for it. For the kids going to school, I can understand that. You might be able to make an argument there, because the schools are just crazy indoctrination centers.
They have their own libraries.
And they have their own damn libraries full of porno. So
still school libraries, and then you're also going to have another library for the adults.
Yeah.
For the adults online. There's really no reason anymore that we should build brick and mortar when we don't even shop with brick and mortar.
Right.
Let's use all the money that we can as far as taxes more effectively and more. I think right now that unifying all of the police departments with the county sheriff is one way to save a whole lot of money and have a much better group of individuals put forth with better communications, lower costs per department, and better service for the citizens. And ultimately, I am sick and tired of having the gas stolen out of my Tahoe.
Right.
So until they get to the point where they can stop the people from stealing the gas out of my Tahoe, I will never go for more taxation, because I'm not getting the service I require. I want to be protected, but it's not happening. So until it happens, don't ask me for more money. Think out of the box and come up with a better plan.
And speaking of that, they just and this is something I've been warning about for a while now, and no one seemed to really give a damn about it. And that was the fact that they were destroying the public defender's office, and people were going, Rob, what do you care about public defenders? What does it matter if a criminal gets an attorney or not? And I tried to explain to him many times that it does matter, because if they don't get an attorney, at a certain point, you have to release them and not charge those people. They get to go scot-free. And if you notice on the screen here, it says important press release from the Coos County DA. And it says, as a public may be aware, there is a shortage of defense counsel in Oregon to take criminal cases for those defendants who cannot afford their own counsel. This has become a significant issue where persons charged with crimes, whether in custody or out of custody, cannot obtain timely representation. Not only is this not fair to a person charged with a crime, it is not fair to the victims of the alleged criminal activity. In Coos County, we currently have 11 persons in custody who do not have counsel. The local public defender's office cannot take these cases for a variety of reasons. The local courts have appointed the Oregon Public Defense Commission to obtain counsel for these persons. Pursuant to the federal court order, if an in-custody defendant does not have counsel within 7 days of that person's first appearance, that person may be released from custody. There are no exceptions. That order goes into effect Friday, June 21st. That was yesterday. I have attached a list of the 11 persons who OPDC has not obtained counsel for. Charges range from rape in the first degree to minor thefts because of a federal court order, unless counsel is appointed or another reason is found to hold the person other than the charges pending. These 11 persons will be released from the Coos County Jail starting Friday, actually through Monday, June 24th. And if you scroll down here, I'm scrolling down, you can look at some of these people and some of the laws that they have broken. And there's one on there, Jesse Regard. He's wanted for rape, and I believe it's a rape of an 11-year-old girl.
Oh my gosh.
Allegedly.
Well, you see, couldn't we just, in the meantime, use these city attorneys to help out the DA's office? They're all attorneys. I would have to know the logistics of what exactly a city attorney does, because the attorneys now
they work for specific laws, like a tax attorney is a tax attorney. How do we know a city attorney is qualified to handle criminal cases is kind of where I'm going with that.
Well, I would assume that since the city also gets charged with criminal cases, they would probably be the same. I mean, we should look into this, but at this point in time, if they want to have some answers, they're going to have to think out of the box, because bringing in a sales tax and then saying it'll lower your property taxes when you haven't even created any kind of an audit system. And believe you me, you've got to have audits on these businesses that are collecting the sales taxes,
Right.
because many people will not turn them in unless
You
there's
betcha.
an audit system. So what you're doing is building this great big debacle.
Yep.
And then asking people to, oh, we're going to make money this way, and then it will cut your property taxes. Sorry, but I don't buy that pipe dream. I just
That
don't-
was one of my biggest complaints is you're going to have to create a bureaucracy or expand the assessor's office. I guess it would be the assessor's office who would be responsible for this. They would need a whole team of people to make sure that all the businesses are they're up and acceptable for doing this. They've been verified. They're being re-verified to make sure that they're paying into the system. All of this is going to take a whole group of people, a whole new team of county workers who, once again, is going to be on PERS, who's going to get those benefits, who are going to get those nice salaries. And are we really paying for more money, or are we paying for a new bureaucracy?
You can't
What?
do 2%. That's why the majority of sales taxes are 6 to 11%, because of the necessary infrastructure to collect the sales taxes. A 2% sales tax is a joke, just a joke.
Well, and then there's another point, and we talked about it earlier. We kind of went over it, but one of the things that's the Commissioner Bob Maine, who's up for re-election right now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that he said is that people were misled, that there were too many rumors and lies going around, that the county had all this timber money, or the county had ARA money, the American ARP money, American Rescue Plan money, or that they could cut other departments. All these lies were going around, and that's why the tax failed. But yet you were at the League of Women Voters, where I was sitting in between the sheriff and the DA. And I told everyone exactly that this was going to happen. If you pass this tax, well, this is what I said, that the county is telling people that it's going to get worse if you don't pass the tax. And I said, they're right. They're 100% right. It's going to get worse if you don't pass the tax. But the fact is, it's going to get worse if you do pass the tax. Mm-hmm. And that whole public defenders thing, which is caused by the legislature and the governor, that's a perfect example of why would you give money to a bureaucracy that's trying to operate within a broken system that's been purposely broken. It's working. It's working for the leftists. They love it. But for us, it's not working at all. And they want us to give them more money at the base level when this has been broken at the top, not at the bottom.
That's exactly right. It's completely broken at the top. There should be no mandate that they have to be released in 7 days. If you want to punish criminals, you don't make some kind of restriction like that, knowing full well that rapists will be released. This is not in our benefit.
Well, they do. Well, they do have a Sixth Amendment right. I don't know if I would make it 7 days. I agree with you. I think that's kind of jumping the gun. I mean, people are allowed a speedy trial. They're supposed to have a speedy trial, and they're supposed to have the right to counsel. And that counsel, if they can't afford it, should be appointed by the taxpayer. That's a Sixth Amendment right.
I agree with those. I don't agree with the time limits. We don't need the time limits so that we let criminals out.
Well,
to give ourselves time to make sure that we can take care of these problems. And they've committed crimes. They need to pay for those crimes. And we don't need to let them go just because we haven't been able to get them a defender within a set amount of time. A reasonable amount of time would be fine. But who's to say what is reasonable? I know that within a week is not reasonable when we only have a few attorneys in the DA's department. We need to extend it. And that should never be mandated from Salem. It should be mandated here.
Well, that's a whole other discussion, and we can have that at another time. But yeah, I think there are problems with the timeline, definitely. But the thing about the public defenders, they are supposed to pay for the public defenders. The state is supposed to provide these attorneys, and they're not providing the money because it's going to things like the Oregon Health Authority and their new equity and inclusion leadership. This is another thing that just came out. I believe it was Friday. Yeah, Friday. And this is the director of the Oregon Health Authority's Equity and Inclusion Division has left her position after more than 8 years heading the division. Alfonso Ramirez, who currently serves as Equity and Community Partnership Manager of OHA's Behavioral Health Division, will serve as interim director. And that's one of those DEI, critical race theory, bullshit departments that they're spending hundreds of millions on, because this is the kind of stuff that they're forcing on the counties, they're forcing on the cities, and they're forcing the counties and the cities to pay for these unfunded mandates, and they're wasting our state tax dollars on these offices right here. And that's my problem with it, is that we have plenty of money to pay public defenders. We're just wasting it on a bunch of crap.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. This will do nobody any good.
Right.
Absolutely.
Why do we even equity and inclusion really define, how this state is going? Because equity is nothing more than, instead of teaching a man to fish, you're giving a man a fish and expecting to give a man a fish for the rest of his life. Right. And inclusion is the opposite of inclusion. Because you and I are not included in any inclusion. And so, it's people who they consider oppressed. And of course, we're the oppressors because we're white. We're white people. For some reason, we're the oppressor. In a state that's majority white, I don't know how.
That's got to be that way. That just reminds me of the situation that we had with Coos Bay and their pride flag. And they want inclusion, but they're unwilling to include anyone else. Only their small group can be included. This is not what the word means, and they've changed it in their own heads, and then insisted that we agree with it, and it's not okay.
It's definitely not okay. And like I said, they call you a fascist or a racist because you don't agree with their terms. But getting back to the narrative that I was talking about with Bob Main, and when he was saying that people were misled about this vote. People were not misled. People knew that there was a good chance we were going to lose patrol. And they knew that we were going to lose people in the sheriff's department and the DA. I knew it. And I think most of the people who voted knew this because it said so in the pamphlet.
That's right.
So Bob saying that everyone was confused. All 60% of the voters who voted were confused, I think is just really insulting to the average voter. We knew that this was going to happen, and to be quite honest with you, I don't think we're going to see that much difference, because crime was going to get worse no matter what we did. And so now maybe we just need to tighten the belt at the county level and make the sacrifices that we have to make and move on as a county. And maybe the law enforcement, instead of going out and going after property owners and store owners who defend themselves, they'll go after the criminals who need to be who need to be attended to.
I want to mention something right now. We had a town hall where Coos Neighborhood Watch got together to talk about what was needed to help the businesses in Empire and Coos Bay, etc. And I don't remember the commissioners attending. Do you remember Bob Main being there?
Rod Taylor did.
Okay. I mean, I know that Bob Main was not there. Rod Taylor was. But the fact of the matter is they didn't attend. They didn't hear the complaints from the people. And the majority of the people, as I remember, and maybe I'm, just remembering rose-colored from the time I was there, but they were saying we are more willing to buy private security than to pay more, because even though we've been paying more, we haven't gotten any better service. And that is absolutely the situation I'm in. I would pay private.
Right.
Because I didn't see any improvement. And when Gabe came on as sheriff, how many deputies left?
I think there was like a dozen.
We had a mass exodus. Now we have business owners who are being charged instead of the people, the criminals who are going up against them. And I think that Gabe has to really look at the way that he's running his department, because he's making an enemy out of many business owners. And we can't continue this way and or be expected to pay him more and give him more money when the service that he's giving does not benefit business owners.
We heard several stories about squatters at that meeting. And one that was really mind-blowing is that the police showed up because an elderly couple called about a guy who was breaking into their house. The police got there, and the guy told the police that he was leasing a room, that he was their roommate. And as soon as he said that, the police told the people who had called the cops on him that it's now a civil issue. And the guy who was breaking in, they left him there in the house with the elderly couple, and the old man was beaten up.
Right.
And they left Coos County because they're terrified.
The police did not see a lease. They didn't produce any documentation to prove his side of it. They just said, oh, well, it must be civil. And we've had the same thing happen when felons have sexual predators have come after us, and we've talked to the police and asked them to hear it out. And this is why right now, if you want more money, give us better service. Figure out
better service,
protection, and maybe we'll give you more money. Because right now, when you see these people that have had their houses invaded and the police have walked away and left them there. In fact, didn't that elderly couple actually move away because of it?
Yes, they did. They moved.
I would. You have that kind of thing happen, and then deal with somebody being in your home and having the police say it's a civil matter, and now you've got to take them to court to get them out. No.
So there's a gentleman who lives he lives outside of Bandon. He lives north of Bandon, and he's on a county road, and he convinced the county to finally let him put up a gate. In fact, it's the road, County Road 166, I think it is, County Road. I can't remember the actual number, but it's the old county road to the old dump that we used to have for the county. And it's, it's a dirt road. And he asked the county commissioners to put up a gate, and he kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And finally, they allowed him to do that. And people were complaining because they had a gate up on this county road. But what they didn't know is that this gentleman had been putting up with squatters who were coming down this county road, parking trailers on his land, and just trashing the place. And it would take him months and months to get people out, if he could even get them out, or they would leave the trailer and other garbage dumped there on his property because, it used to be the old dump. And the city would come, or the county would come by and tell him, well, if you don't move that trailer, we're going to charge you fines for not removing that dilapidated vehicle, because now it's a mobile home that's stuck in the middle of the woods. He didn't put it there. He didn't bring it there. He had squatters right across the street from him on this dirt road, right across the dirt road, that when I pulled up to take pictures of the fence, you could see the squatters on the other side of the road, just in their mobile home, just taking over the land. And he says he's been trying to get them out for months and months, and it's just been a legal nightmare. And all I can think is, in Texas, we would solve that with a double barrel shotgun. You know what I'm saying? And
that's true.
That's what we need to get back to.
The Sheriff's Department needs more money, and they want more money. They've got to look at their performance for the people, and then understand why the people are saying no. We're not going to get more money because you're not protecting us. When they provide protection, we're more than willing to pay more. But right now, for the last few years, the whole time I've lived here, I've felt that the crime level was way too high. And, I know what has happened to several business owners here, and I can't even believe the sheriff allows it to happen.
So when do you plan on presenting this idea to the commissioners?
Well, I hope that Rod Taylor watches the segment. I know we're not friends like that, but I think he'll get some ideas, and maybe he will contact the Sheriff's Department in Salt Lake County, the Unified Police Department, and ask some questions. because they were in the same situation. They didn't have enough funding. They couldn't increase the taxes, and they had to do something different. And if they'll look into what other counties have done in this situation, they may find ways to save money and provide better service to their citizens. And, you know, once the citizens have said no to a tax increase, don't call the citizens stupid. They said no for a reason.
Right.
Tighten your belt, figure out new plans, and think out of the box a little bit, gentlemen.
And that was kind of what was really ticking me off about the DA and the sheriff. And I know this isn't an easy task for them because they have to cut their budget. They're going to have to lay off some people. But I don't know if they've ever worked in the private world, but we have to lay off people all the time.
That's right.
I mean, there's no such thing as job security. I've had to fire good friends of mine because we've gotten rid of their position. We had to, cut off some fat, and I've had to fire a lot of people in my time. And I mean, when we took in over stores, we would pick their best people, and we would, or when we were shutting down stores, we would pick the good people, take them back to the other stores, and everyone else would get fired. And I have had to fire entire crews, an entire lab of people, an entire sales group of people. And it hurts. It sucks. But that's just life. Sometimes you have to balance the budget on the backs of the employees. And they, for some reason, thinking that they're in government and that's not how government should work. I completely disagree with that. I think that's what will make government more competitive if they realize that they only have a certain amount of money, and you better come up with some damn good ideas to be able to work with that money. Or maybe you shouldn't have ran for sheriff. And I don't want to put it all on Gabe, because I think the commissioners have to take some responsibility as too. Mm-hmm. And I do have to give the commissioners kudos, Diane. They did the best thing I've seen a group of politicians do in a long time. They cut their salary. I believe they used to get $72,000 a year. Was it $74,000 a year? I forget how much they made, but they took it all the way down to $30,000 a year. And I was impressed with that. Rod Taylor, Bob Main, congratulations for doing that. John Sweet was opposed to it. But if you're going to cut other people's jobs and cut other people's or not give anyone wage increases, then you might want to think about cutting your position as well, because what can I say? That's just life.
Right.
There are times when business owners don't get paid.
They're the last to get paid.
They're the last to get paid. Yeah.
You pay everybody else, and you're the last to get paid. And unfortunately, that's what we're looking at right now. But we need to keep in mind, our taxes are the second lowest in the county, but our rate of income is the fourth lowest in the state.
Right.
So it's not like you can just add a sales tax and have it all be groovy tunes, because 2% of our food bill would be taken by this tax. 2% of our expenditures to buy tires for our vehicle and gasoline, etc., all goes into a sales tax, and it never goes away. Once you open that, it will never go away.
I think that they would have an easier time of selling consolidation rather than selling another tax. And in fact, I make a prediction: if they're able to go through with putting a sales tax on the ballot, it's going to fail at the ballot. And Rod said that if that happens, they'll probably have to bring it back in next year, which is going to be even worse. And here's why: there are no elections normally in the odd years in 2025. And so the county will have to spend anywhere between $65,000 and $70,000 to put this question on the ballot. And taxpayers see that they're spending that kind of money to ask them a question that they've already answered, and the answer was no.
Twice.
They're going to say no again, and even in a louder voice.
Right. And they're not going to get the answer that they want, because the service that we've been receiving has been marginal. So you can't ask us for more money when you're not really giving us excellent service. And the unification, looking at lean manufacturing, that's what all manufacturers have had to do in the last few years to stay in business. And government has been doing this as a total solution that I'm aware of for the last 15 years. To the county and the city levels, and they need to look at unification of costs, unification of equipment, tightening their belts in every way that they can. And that sometimes means that you work with your neighbor. You know, it's like farmers, they may only have one bull. Well, they'll share that bull to make sure that they get the calves that they need, right? Those
Bull pimping.
And it's about time they shared that bull, don't you think?
It's about time they pimp out some of that bull.
It is. It really is. Bottom line, it's really easy for them to do a single HR group within these 5 cities and the sheriff's department, rather than having 5 different HR directors take care of all of these things. I mean, it makes no sense not to unify when this is being done all over the United States.
I will talk to Rod about this and the other commissioners, because like I said, I can sell this idea much better than I can sell, hey, you want to get a sales tax? Because I just think that is a loss out the door. And like I said, I'm not sure whether I'm for or against it. I'm falling on the side of being against any tax at this point, because of, just like you said, the service we're getting from government. And I don't care what level it's at, whether it's the feds, the state, the cities, the counties. I think that the fact is that our country is being sabotaged from the top down, and no matter what we throw, no matter how much money we throw at it, it's just going to get worse, worse, and worse. And you know, if anyone who can't open their eyes and see what we're seeing now, and remember when we lived back in the 80s, even in the 90s, it was never this bad. It was never this bad, where you got people living in tents all over the damn city.
Right. And a $64 billion wind turbine farm.
Right.
That we know already is not going to work, that it's ineffective, and that it's going to be a total failure. But they're going to spend the $64 billion. And we're going to have to then remove all this garbage out of our ocean after we lose all of our fleets, all of our whale watching, all of our fishing processors. All of those people are going to go away so that they can do this Green Deal that will never work.
I was just down in Grants Pass talking. It was actually Cave Junction where they live, the Robinsons, right. Art Robinson's son, Noah Robinson, Matt Robinson, and one of the boys. And I was talking to them about this wind project, because they did our signs, and they came out with our signs, and they thought it was a joke. They go, "Are you kidding me?" And then I explained to them, these are going to be floating windmills that are tethered to the floor of the ocean, and they're going to be floating. And okay, these are very intelligent young men who have very good an idea of engineering and architecture and how technical things work, because they are living at the Institute of Medicine and Science, or Science and Medicine. I forget how it goes. But these guys are really put together well as far as knowing about constructing these types of the apparatuses. And they just laughed. They said, I wouldn't even worry about it, because they're not going to last a year. They said that this won't even last a year, and they're never going to produce any electricity that they're guaranteeing. They thought it was a joke.
It's a big waste of money.
Yep.
And to even think about attaching these gigantic wind turbines to 5 unstable tectonic plates in the bottom of the ocean. And we know more about the surface of the moon than we know about the bottom of our ocean, especially on the Pacific Ocean side. And the wind turbines have to be shut down when the wind blows more than 55 miles an hour. And that happens on a daily basis.
All the time. We were just out there, barely could hold our signs because the wind was so strong. And these things are just going to get blown away.
We're holding that with that great big sign in abandon. You just can't do it. So we can see that this is a failure, that this is a big waste of taxpayer money. And, there are better ways to do things. And we expect our leaders to come up with better ways of doing things. And if that means that they need to contact others out of state and look at different plans and different procedures, that's what needs to be done. You can't just add more taxes. You have to be more strategic. Surround yourself with smarter people and look at different ways of doing things. And that's how businesses work. You know, business people have mentors. We look into people that are smarter than we are. Like you and I, we get Marty right now. When we've got a question, we need a computer scientist, we get somebody who's smarter than we are. We look at it together as a team and we come up with something that will solve the problem. And government should be the same way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, and like I said, you know, we all have to take cuts in private business. And if the county has to cut services, cut employees, make those cuts.
Right.
I know it's going to hurt. I know nobody wants to do this, but unfortunately, that's what the people voted for. And I do believe they knew what they were voting for. And so before I get you out of here, Diane, is there anything else you want to tell the listeners?
Well, I want to tell everybody that we are having another protest on July 13th in Coos County at the Boardwalk. And then we'll also be down in Brookings on July 20th. And we want everyone to join us. We have new signs and the movement is growing all the time. We have more protesters showing up to help us. And if you want to stop this $64 billion debacle, you need to get out of your house and come down and stand with us and protest these wind turbines before they come in and we lose all this tax money, because we can't get it back. It is going to be very destructive and we need your help, guys.
Yeah, we're never going to get this money back, and we'll never get the land back that they take, because they're going to have to use eminent domain to transport this electricity onto shore, and then from onto shore wherever they're going inland
to
California. And California has a heck of a lot more beach area than we do, so they should be putting this up in California.
Well, they put some up in California and they're not working very well, but they don't listen to the citizens after they put them in, because if you look at CFAX along the East Coast, all of the citizens are fighting to keep them out and to stop them from coming in. And we need the fishermen's wives. We need the fish processing companies. We need all of the whale watching companies to come out and meet us on the boardwalk and hold up signs and show people that you want your jobs. And now is the time to do it, not later when it's too late and it's over.
And people can get more information on this at facebook.com, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. Once again, that's Oregonians Against Wind Turbines. Diane, I appreciate you being on here, and I guess I'll be talking to you later soon sometime.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
All right. You take care. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Not a problem. All right. That was the interview that I had with Diane on Saturday, and we had a great day Saturday because we got to go to Bandon. Well, first we went to Coos Bay at the boardwalk, and I gotta give the people of Coos Bay kudos. I left my flag, my American flag, the same flag I've been using in protest probably for about 7 years now. And so it's a really nice American flag, and I've got it on a PCV pipe. It's about 6 feet long, and the flag's hanging on it. And I left it at the boardwalk this past Saturday in Coos Bay. And believe it or not, nobody stole it and nobody burned it. It was a beautiful thing. That's what's great about our county, is I know people think that there's a lot of crime going on, which there is crime going on, but it sat there for an hour and a half. We had left to go do the protest in Bandon from the boardwalk, and the flag sat there for an hour and a half and nobody messed with it. And a friend of mine went and picked it up. And I was so worried that this flag was going to unfurl and roll out into the street, and then you would have cars going over it. And of course, some leftist would take a picture of it and say, there's Rob Taylor's flag, and he's so disrespectful. And I was worried about it for about an hour until we had gotten into contact with somebody and they were able to pick it up. So kudos to Coos Bay, but we had a good time in Coos Bay and in Bandon. I want to go back to some of the comments that I got during that interview. Let's see if I can get some of those comments up, because I think they're very relevant. And the first one is from Alex Bowser. The sheriff's department will not get along with the woke PD in Bandon. And I'm not sure if you were trying to make an argument for why we should consolidate and get rid of many of the liberal police departments that are in Coos County. Because if you notice, I really don't think Chris Chapinar, the chief of police in Coos Bay, is a liberal. I just know that the city council in Coos Bay is very liberal. You got people like Drew Farmer, Joe Benetti, several others who are just flaming liberals, and they are going to, pretty much put the thumb down on their police department in Coos Bay, and the police department is going to be more liberal. And why? Because the police know that the council does not have their back. Everyone in Coos Bay knows the city council does not back their police department. And how do we know that? Because when Black Lives Matter and Antifa came out here for a rally, they were more supportive of Black Lives Matter than they were of their own police department. We watched that in action. And then they passed an inclusion resolution, which called most of the citizens of Coos Bay, said all the citizens of Coos Bay are too damn stupid to realize how racist they are. And you don't believe me? Go read their inclusion resolution. You can go get it on my website at robtaylorreport.com on the blog page. Just look up the Coos Bay inclusion resolution, and it will pop up on the search engine. And it's just absolutely distressful that we have such liberal police departments in such a conservative county. So maybe we could turn the city's liberal police departments, whether it's because of the chief or whether it's because of the city council, but we could turn those city police departments into a more conservative department by consolidating them with the sheriff. So, Alex, I think you just made a huge argument in favor of consolidation. I don't know whether you're for it or against it, but that to me is a huge argument, because that's part of the problem of when the police show up. And usually it's police. I can't really so much speak to the sheriff's department. I've heard a couple of stories about the sheriff deputies taking the side of the criminal over the victim. Well, I know the police department does that on a huge, all the time in Bandon and in Coos Bay. They will show up to the scene of a crime, and they seem to automatically take the side of known criminals. And it's very frustrating to those of us who are tax-paying citizens who have been through this experience. The worst time this is one of the reasons I left New Mexico, was because the police department would show up to your house after you've called them because you've either been robbed, something's been vandalized, or you've actually been assaulted in your front yard. All three things have happened to me in New Mexico when I lived there, because I lived in a really bad neighborhood. And that's part of the reason I left and came to Oregon. But the police would show up and they would act like the homeowner was the problem. Like because you called the police, were bothering them. You know what I mean? There was a guy who was shooting bullet holes into the trailers in the huge trailer park that we were in. And I called the dispatch. The dispatch actually said to me, well, is he firing at the trailers? I go, well, does it matter if he's firing the gun and they're going into the trailers? I don't know if he's purposely doing it. I just know what's happening. And you need to get a cop out here and tell him to stop. And so there are things like this that happen all the time. And I know in New Mexico it was just frustrating when the cops would show up, they would treat the person who called the cops like they were the criminal. And, I don't think that happens most of the time. The majority of the time, whether it's the sheriffs or the police, they usually show up and they usually will be on the side of the victim. There are those occasions when that's flipped. And I know that's, ask Rob from Base and Tackle. When he defended himself in his own shop, they took the side of the criminal when they asked him, the criminal, if they wanted to press charges against Rob from Base and Tackle, because Rob defended himself in his own store. That's the kinds of things that I'm talking about. So, Alex, I don't know if you were really opposed to this idea of consolidation or against it, but I think you just made a huge argument in defense of passing consolidation. That's just wow, I really went off on that comment. But Gary Landry, he says, people forget the sales tax will affect our pet and livestock feed too. That will be costly. You know, I didn't think about that. Once again, this is why we need a lot of people on our side who's part of the team. And Gary, you just nailed it. I didn't even think about that. There's going to be a 2% tax increase on pet supplies and pet food. That's going to be huge. I know that human food will be exempt from the tax. Medicine will be exempt, but I don't think that that was the intentions of the commissioners, to exempt feeding livestock, the food that you use to feed livestock. So once again, that's a very good question. Let's see, Alex Bowser, wind doesn't work, solar doesn't work, get over it. Yeah, I agree with you. And the problem is that I wish I could get over it. But unfortunately, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is going to shove that windmill project down the throats of all Southern Oregonians. That's just what's going to happen, and it's sad. Alex has got another comment. People will make millions just studying it, but it will never be built. I hope so. And like I said, that's kind of what the Robinsons were saying. They were saying, you know, this is just isn't going to happen. It's just not in. It's not. You know, you could do it. If an engineer could build it, but nobody could build something that's going to last in the water for any significant amount of time. And it's going to cost a huge amount of money to keep fleet of technicians who are going to have to be out there on the water on a constant basis trying to repair these windmills. And we're talking about windmills that are going to be as tall as the Empire State Building, with blade spans of a couple of football fields. I don't know if you know what that means. I don't know if you've ever seen the Empire State Building, but you know, you're talking about a structure that big. This is just going to be a mess, and it just isn't going to happen. Yeah. So one of the other comments that Alex has made: listen to the scanner, the truth comes out. I do listen to the scanner on a regular basis, and that's good advice. Once again, Alex, you are nailing it today. What a great question, what a great response. The last two responses you had, just great, fantastic. And like I said, you just made me a new argument in support of consolidation, because I think I could sell the consolidation idea much better than I could sell the tax. I just don't think a tax is going to happen. And I want to let you know that during that recording that I just played, somebody won Where's 3H Tree Service. Hopefully they'll get a picture to me, and we'll post the picture of the winner next week, and we'll show you who got to win, because, you know, I don't want anyone to think that we're lying to you. We've actually had winners, and I've had their pictures on this show. So you could win $50 if you want to play Where's 3H Tree Service, and you got to play to win. That's the deal. And so we'll be doing that again next week. Oregon Outlaw, he has a comment here. He says, yes, they will get all the investors to get in, then dump their stocks knowing it will fail, like the energy secretary did. Can you believe the energy secretary? Wow. No kidding. It's a pump and dump. That's what they call that. It's a pump and dump. And what they'll do is they'll pump up the the stock, because it's a new business. They will sell all their stock, and it will dump to nothing. And the fact is that it really doesn't matter, because the BOEM agency has agreed to cover all the losses of the major corporations. Even if how would you like that, Oregon Outlaw? How would you like to be able to go into business, and if you lost money, don't worry, the government will back you up and pay for all your losses? Well, that's the deal between BOEM and the leases that they're selling to these private corporations. That's the deal. We, the taxpayers, pay for any loss. We pay for the maintenance. We pay for the repairs, and we're going to get screwed. The whole deal is just bad, very bad, bad stuff going on there. Let's see. Let's get rid of that winners banner because, well, it's just getting annoying to me. But I do want to tell you that we are having an event. We are having an event in Bandon next week. It's going to be with Dr. Douglas Frank. There he is. Dr. Douglas Frank. I've had him on the radio show. I think I've had him on a couple of times, and he has been a fantabulous guest. The guy is an incredible guest. He knows the numbers, he knows the facts, the figures, the data, and he knows how to express it in a way that's easily understandable. You know, for people like me, I'm a little bit slow. I'm not the sharpest pencil in the pencil box. Okay. What can I tell you? And so sometimes I need a little help. And we've got an expert here, Dr. Douglas Frank, who's going to be in Bandon at the Restoration Worship Center. Like I said, say that 3 times. Restoration Worship Center. It's the Restoration Worship Center, and that's right across from Ray's. This is happening Monday, July 1st at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to have the show probably start about 6. I think I'm going to work on trying to get it on at 6. We're going to talk to Marty and see if I can get an appointment with Douglas Frank before the actual meeting starts or this event starts. It's an event because, you know, this guy goes, it's like watching a show. He's incredible. The information that he spews out there is just absolutely incredible. You got to go check it out. And so I'm going to start the show probably at 6 o'clock next week. This is next Monday. So don't expect me here at 3 o'clock because I'm going to start it at 6 o'clock. I'll send out the proper notices to let everyone know. And this is a really good thing. A private individual is bringing in Dr. Frank. Let's see, before I go to that, let's see, where did I want to go? We were talking about the windmill rallies. Now, we had a windmill rally in Gold Beach and in Brookings 2 weeks ago, and this 2 weekends ago. And this past weekend, we had one in Coos Bay and North Bend. Well, we're trying to do this every month. And before everyone goes, Rob, these people don't give a damn about your rallies. I know these people don't give a damn about our rallies. I know that the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, because they're the feds, they don't give one iota about a rally. They don't care. We know this. We know this is going to end up in court. We hope that the tribes and the county are going to sue BOEM, just like they're suing over on the East Coast. They're suing against those windmill projects right now. And we've got to leap ahead of the people on the East Coast because they've already started construction on the East Coast. We're not even to that point yet. They've just put out those leases, so we're still waiting for those leases to be picked up. So the reason we're having these windmills is I know they don't give a damn at the Fed level what we say down here in Coos County. But you know who does? There's a lot of business owners who are going to be affected by these windmills, and they're going to find out what we're doing. All the people that are going by these protests are going to see our signs, go to our Facebook page, which is the Facebook page that's listed there, Oregonians Against Wind Turbines, and they're going to learn more about this project. You know, we were getting a lot of honks and thumbs up and cheers from people who were passing by during our event, our windmill rally. And one of the things that really interested me was that there were a lot of people who were driving by who were looking like they were confused. They were looking at our signs going, wind turbines? What the hell do you say? What in the pray tell are these protesters talking about? And so that's why we're doing this, is to notify and put people on notice that this is happening and that they've got to start talking about it to their neighbors, their friends, to the people they work with, because all of us in Coos County, all of us on the coast of Oregon, in fact, the entire state will eventually be affected by this because it's going to shut down our fishing industry. It's going to put a lot of people out of business. And I don't care how many jobs they talk about they're going to create. They're going to create jobs that are for special technicians. And there are none of those special technicians who live here in Coos Bay. So what they're talking about is bringing in people to replace us to work on those windmills, to replace the fishermen, because the fishermen, they're going to go out of business. They're not going to be able to afford their houses, and they're going to have to leave the area and find other places to go. So, that's the only way that they're going to be able to sell this project, is by saying that they're going to bring in jobs. Of course, they're not talking about the jobs that they're going to destroy to bring in these wind turbines. But you can join us, because we're going to be out there on July 13th, high noon, at the Coos Bay Boardwalk. And I promise you, I won't forget my flag. I felt so bad about it. I'm really attached to my flag, and I'm not going to forget it again. I felt very embarrassed by that. But I want to thank you for Coos Bay for being a good, decent city, and nobody violating my dear, precious American flag while it was left at the boardwalk. Totally my fault, and I want to thank you all. But high noon, we're going to be back at the boardwalk. We're going to be back at the boardwalk at noon. That's the boardwalk and Highway 101, and then at 2, because we shut down at 1:30. And the reason we only go for an hour and a half is because that's what I call the back measurement, the back pain measurement, because after about an hour, your back starts to, you feel that twinge in the back. You start to hurt, at least all of us over 50. And so about an hour and a half into it, our backs are saying, screw you, we got to go sit down for a while. And that gives us time to sit down in our cars and travel down to Bandon, rest our backs up. What can I say? We're getting old. And it gives us a chance to go down to Bandon. And at 2 o'clock, we're going to have the Bandon protest, or the Bandon rally. I don't like to call these things protests, but we are rallying against the windmills. And we're going to have this at a different place in Bandon, at Highway 101 in the Visitor Center. If you know where the Visitor Center, we're going to be up behind the Visitor Center on the sidewalk with our rally, with our new signs, with our flags. And we'll be showing a lot of that. And you won't believe the things that happen at rallies. We actually made the news, and you're going to love this. This is great. There was a business owner in Brookings, and I won't name the name of the business, because I'm not one who believes in boycotting businesses. I'll never shop there. I probably would never have shopped there anywhere, because it's a woman's boutique store, and I just don't think they had my size. Definitely not my color, but not my size. And so it was a woman's boutique store, and we were protesting in front of it last month. And when I say we, I just mean the group of us. And there was a couple of our guys in front of the building, and they were protesting. And the owner comes out, and she yells at the guy. She says, "Hey, you need to move." And he goes, "Well, I got a First Amendment right. This is a public sidewalk." And she saw that he had laid a sign up against her building. So she picked up the sign and she threw it in the street, and she said, "There's your First Amendment." Actually, I think she said, "Go fuck your First Amendment." It was very rude. I could hear her from across the street. And I'm like, damn, what's wrong with this lady? She should be giving us cookies, because people are now noticing her business because we're out there protesting. But no, she was rude. She was insulting. And so she threw her sign. And well, okay, that's fine. But it's a good place to protest. It's right there on Chetco, right across from the home center. And I think it's called the Cascade Home Center. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what the name of that place is. But it's right across from there. It's a boutique. And like I said, I don't want to boycott the store. In fact, I should praise the owner, because she got us news. Because what happened this past weekend, the weekend before last, we were down in front of her store again. And we had our people there, but she had her brother there power washing the building. And so we didn't care if they want to power wash the building. Fine, power wash the building. And so our guys were standing out there, and I guess some of the guys got into an argument with her brother, who was power washing the building. And they were screaming back and forth. And it was funny. The guy yelled at our protesters, said, "You need to get a job." And of course, our guys looked back. We're all retired. This is kind of our job now. This is what we do when we're retired. And so it was funny. They were having a back and forth. And so we didn't think anything of it, but the guy started spraying the sign, and then he pointed the hose at our protesters and sprayed our protesters, and sprayed the guy who was videotaping him, sprayed the protesters. This was the funniest damn thing. And so the guys, the cops showed up. I actually had to call the cops because I didn't want this to escalate. And so and by the way, I was across the street. I wasn't involved with this, but I called the cops. And the cops showed up and I said, hey, look, I'm Rob Taylor. I'm the one who called you. And we're just peacefully protesting the windmills. And this guy just sprayed my people. And I don't think he should be spraying my people. I think that's wrong. And by the way, he was using his power washer, the pump to the power washer. It was blocking the handicapped ramp for the crosswalk. There was a crosswalk going across the street, and he was blocking that ramp. And so, we were a little upset with this guy. And so the police went over there and talked to him and told him and explained to him that spraying people with the water who don't want to be sprayed is an actual assault. Can you believe this? Yes, it's an actual assault. And so the cop said, we can either write you a citation for assault, or you can make up with these people and maybe they won't press charges against you, because we'd have to press charges for it to actually go through to a citation. And so the guy went up and apologized to the protesters, our people. And it was great. It was wonderful. I think he just did it because he got caught. It wasn't because he really felt sorry. But, it was just a funny event. But the thing is that we did get a recording of this. And because we got a recording, I've got a video here for you. Let me see if I can get.
That's the problem. It's your harassment. You like harassing young little girls?
I like photographing. I'm just videotaping.
Yeah, good.
We're allowed to do it here. I know you want us to stop doing everything. It's my First Amendment right, too. First Amendment right.
You're on my property. You're on my property. Sir, you're on my property right here.
I am.
Do you see?
It's good.
You're on private property.
Sure, good for you. Oh, we're going to ruin these signs, though, sir. These are all going to get all wet. He better not get pneumonia. Love that. And he calls you a prick. What an asshole.
Keep videoing. We're calling the police.
Oh my God. Me don't see protests too much.
All right, that was just freaking hilarious. Like, squirting us with water is going to make me leave. I'll tell you what, I've been to some protests in the middle of the hot summer. And if you sprayed me with water, I'd probably thank you for it. But that's the dangers of protesting. We were in Gold Beach just before that protest in Brookings. And I had left the corner that I was standing on, and I was standing next to Diane Rich. And she said that this really strange guy, he was very strangely dressed and he was acting peculiar, came by, and he told her that he hoped she gets screwed. Of course, he didn't use the word screwed. He used the F word. And she was just freaked out by this guy. And I guess he crossed the street and went into the liquor store. And when he came out, he was trying to start stuff with a couple other protesters. They were smart and they just ignored him. But I guess if you just go out and protest something, people are just going to be mad at you. I don't know what to tell you, no matter what you do. And the weird thing is if I was a business, I would be I would be wise enough to know that if you go out there and you get the protesters on your side, they will actually help you advertise for your business. And you can especially if it's something you agree with, because you saw that lady who owned the store. She was the gray-haired lady. Oh, you're on my property. You're on my property. Well, if she would have been a little bit nicer, you know what I mean? We might have, said nice things about her store. She would have been credited, with being a nice lady. If she would have came out and gave the protesters cookies, we'd say, oh, this wonderful ladies boutique. The lady came out, she was in support of us, and she gave us some cookies. I would be smarter. That's just because I've been in business a long time. That's just how I would have dealt with it. It just blows my mind how business owners and just people in general just get pissed off for the most simplest things. And it's like, people don't have a problem with the drug derelicts who are living in tents and crapping in the streets, but you got a problem with some guy holding a sign on the sidewalk. That's just bizarre. It just blows my mind. And so I don't know. It was just a hilarious thing. I thought I thought that you would like that. Let me go back to some of my comments here because they were getting interesting. Let's see. Yay, they will get all the investors taught to get in, then dump their stocks knowing it will fail. I think I read that one already. Oregon Outlaw made a comment. He says, yeah, I would love to be zero, be a insider trader, LOL. Yeah, I would like to too. That would be just a good thing. Let's see. Why isn't that showing up? They know how to trade. Yes, they do. And the last one, Alex says, just play with them, Rob. The left can be fun. The left can be fun, especially when you tick them off. They're just funny fucking people. What can I tell you? They're funny fucking people. And I don't know. I just enjoy them. In fact, I've got some other things that was kind of interesting talking about the funny left. These people are just funny. They think they're so wise. I watched this video on X. It was a video about an electric vehicle, that new truck. I forget what it's called, by Tesla, and it looks like a toaster. It drives around. It looks like a giant toaster. In fact, I was going to make a meme of me sitting in a toaster. Oh, look, it's my new Tesla. And but you got to watch this video. This video is just freaking hilarious.
Charge the Cybertruck. Grab the charger right here, and you gotta tap 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 until the charger port opens. Tap tap port, open. There we go. Let's see how fast we're charging right now. 1 hour and 30 minutes. Times 61, that is $73 for a full tank. That's gonna give me a range of 296 miles.
Boom, 405 miles.
I think it's pretty good because you're driving the future, aka the Cybertruck.
How is this the future? It took me 1:52 to fill up my tank. It was cheaper to fill up my tank, and I can go farther. I don't fucking get it. Make it make sense.
Let's go.
Yeah, make it make sense. That's what we're asking the windmill company. Just make it make sense, and we might support you. I love that. The guy's tapping on the vehicle to get his gas cap to open, and the lady goes over and pushes hers, and it just pops open, fills it up. Oh, look, I'm getting 166 miles. She's getting 405. He's paying 70 some odd dollars. She's paying $66. I make it make sense, please. If you could just, you leftists. You know what I mean? You keep telling us, oh, a three-year-old boy, he knows if he's a girl or not. Hell, man, he don't even know if he's a penguin or not. And it's infuriating. It's infuriating. So, instead of getting infuriated, you just got to laugh, because you got to realize these people are just batshit crazy, okay? They're just batshit crazy. And so I watch these things on Twitter all the time. It's one of my favorite things. It's better than most of the news, because you watch things on X of people filming of what's happening on the street, that's real life. You'll learn more by watching that than anything in the news. The news is just, it's all fake, it's all phony, it's just a BS. That's why I love having the availability to all this social media when you can watch this stuff and go, yeah, just make it make sense. The windmills, please, boom, just make it make sense. And then I've got another video here, and this is, the left, you can laugh at the left. I love laughing at the leftist. It's one of my favorite things to do. But then you've got the leftists who you can't laugh at them because they're dangerous as all hell. They're batshit crazy. They're as crazy as a rat in an outhouse, and yet they think we're the bad guy. And I'll show you an example of this. You're going to love this video.
How's it going, man? So you know why I'm here, obviously, right? This is you, right? So I'm not here to hurt you.
Okay.
I want to have a conversation with you, though. You think we can talk about this?
Yeah, in a civil manner.
Yeah, I haven't yelled at you or anything, right? I mean, you can ask him why he's here if you want to ask.
Oh, I live in the neighborhood and I do a lot of mutual aid for the houseless.
Oh, no, he's not houseless. He has plenty of homes.
To make sure that he was not being harassed.
Oh, am I harassing you? You want to tell her why you're here, or you want her just to probably move along? Yeah.
Is everything okay?
Not really, but
do you want him to go away?
Do you want to talk about this? Or?
I do. I want to talk about it.
Right. So.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the brown person was safe.
Okay. The brown person is safe.
Yeah, because we take
have a good day. Have a good day. Have a good day. This is the step into Portland right here. What's up, man?
Not much.
So what are you doing here? You understand why I'm here, obviously?
I do.
Okay. So
you're not here to fight me or anything.
If I was here to fight you, bro, I would have put you in the river already.
Okay.
Right? You came right here to the river. How long do you think you've been talking to this girl?
A few weeks.
Yeah, well, I'm just making sure the brown person is okay. We don't care if he's molesting little children. We don't care if he wants to cut off their peepees and wee-wees. We just got to make sure you white supremacist males aren't harassing the brown people. Don't be harassing the brown people. The next time I see people of color in Coos Bay, which is rare because we are a bunch of white people, doesn't mean we're racist. But if I do, I think I'm going to run up to them and give them a big hug and ask them if they want me to buy them lunch. You know what I mean? It's like, I know they tell you we're all a bunch of racists, but we're not. I swear, we're not. I promise you. I love you, man. And so it just cracks me up. This is what we're living with. That video was from Portland. It's got hundreds of thousands of views on social media, on TikTok. And I guarantee you, my relatives in Texas are looking at that crap going, wow, how did Rob end up in Oregon? How did that happen? And I always got to tell them, well, that's Portland. It's not, most of Oregon is rural and we still have some common sense. And that shit that goes on in Portland, I will not excuse it. That's just some crazy crap that's going on. And, hopefully at some point, people will gain their rationality and realize that not just because you're a white guy on the street talking to a brown person doesn't mean you're harming them. But that's the mindset of your average liberal woman in Portland. And don't you love the fact that I guess now if you're a white male, you need to ask permission. You have to ask permission of all the white liberal women in the area. Can I talk to this brown person? Can I talk to this brown person? Would you be okay with that? Excuse me, Miss Liberal Bitch. Is it okay if I talk to this brown person? And the fact that she calls him a brown person, he's just a person. He's a human, just like, well, I don't know, are liberal women humans? Okay, he's a person just like you liberal women. So I don't know. I just, wow, I got to say this shit is crazy. And so those are two videos I wanted to share with you. And I do want to share a couple of stories with you. Let's see if I have them here. Yeah, I think I do. Let's add this to the stage. Switching gears here, the U.S. Supreme Court allows gun restrictions on domestic violence suspects. Now, this is one of the judgments that they have made, the decisions that they have made that I don't agree with. I know people go, what, you want a guy who's a wife beater to have a gun? And I'm thinking, well, if a wife beater wants to get a gun, it doesn't matter what sentence you put on him. It doesn't matter what restraining order you give him. All that's just an order. It's a piece of paper. It means nothing unless you physically restrain the guy. Anyone can hurt anyone. And it doesn't matter whether they can get guns or not. But the U.S. Supreme Court just decided that that the court allows gun restrictions for domestic violence sentences or suspects. And justices ruled that the federal government did not violate a Texas man's Second Amendment rights when barring him from possessing firearms. And this is a ruling that just came out, I believe it was Friday. Let's see if I can get the date here. Yeah, the 21st. Yep, that was Friday. And it says, in an 8-1 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in a major gun rights case Friday that protective orders can bar people accused of domestic violence from owning firearms. Zaki Rahimi, a Texas man, unsuccessfully claimed it's unconstitutional to restrict people under domestic violence protective orders from accessing firearms. Since the founding, the nation's firearm laws have included regulations to stop individuals who threaten physical harm to others from misusing firearms. The court's majority opinion read, the case was the High Court's first major firearms ruling since the 2022 decision that established a new standard for determining if gun regulations are constitutional, and that would be the Brewing ruling, which was great. And by the way, I don't like to call it rulings. These are just decisions. They don't rule over anything. They just make decisions based on their best legal opinion. Yep, decisions based on their opinion, kind of like every other person in the rest of the world. Yes, but Friday's ruling overturned a Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals decision that found the Second Amendment protects domestic abusers' right to firearms. And of course, this is great. Justice Clarence Thomas, the author of the 2022 Bruin decision, was the sole dissenter. And that's why Clarence Thomas is one of my favorite Supreme Court judges. Of all of them, none of them stand up to Clarence Thomas. Scalia, before Scalia passed away, Scalia was one of the best. I think Clarence Thomas is even better. The man is a genius. And I hope it's okay that I'm talking about a brown man. Maybe I should go. I wonder if there's is there a liberal woman maybe I can find around here? I should ask her, can I be talking about a brown man? Because Clarence Thomas is a brown man. But I agree with him. I agree with him 100%. I think this guy should be allowed. I'm talking about Rahimi. This guy should be allowed because he hasn't been proven guilty of anything. He hasn't, if a woman goes to a court and can say, hey, I'm scared of this guy. He's threatened me. Take away his guns. If they can do that with restraining orders, what's going to stop people from doing that all the time, willy-nilly? And we know they do it willy-nilly all the time. And once they take your guns and take away your right to possess guns, it's so hard to get it back. So to me, unless you've actually been convicted in a court of law for a crime that stops you from owning a gun, then you should be allowed to your Second Amendment rights. And I'll have to read the Clarence Thomas decision. I haven't read what his dissent opinion was, and I highly recommend it. You can go over to SCOTUS blog. That's SCOTUS blog.com. And they will give you a play-by-play of how this came out and what Clarence Thomas wrote in his dissenting opinion. I don't even have to read what they've said in deciding this case. The ones who stopped this man from having his Second Amendment rights violated, are stopped the courts from violating this man's Second Amendment rights. That's the problem when they're not consistent. And I think the Bruin decision was pretty well written. Clarence Thomas wrote this, and I'm gonna get in contact with Kevin Starrett and find out what Kevin Starrett thinks about this, because I think he's one of the best has the best opinions on the Second Amendment of anyone that I know. And so I'm going to get in contact with him and ask him about it. But I'm telling you right now, I'm just opposed to it. I just want to see what he thinks, but I'm opposed to the court's decision. I think this was a bad decision. And hopefully it won't go any further. And, that's just one of the cases that I wanted to share with you. I also want to talk about this one here, the illegal aliens. This is why I'm a big Second Amendment supporter. The cops can't defend you. The cops can't defend you in Portland. The cops can't stop crimes from happening, not only in Portland, but anywhere. They can't defend you in Coos Bay. You have to defend yourself. The first responder on the scene is you if the crime is happening to you. If the crime is happening to you, you are the first responder. You, your wife, your family, walking down the street, somebody comes up to you, hey, buddy, your life or your money. And that's when you have to become the first responder. What do? Your car's getting carjacked. You got your kids in the vehicle. Your car's getting carjacked. What do? It's up to you. You're the first responder. It could take cops on the average 20 minutes to get to a scene of a crime here in Coos County. In the place that I came from in New Mexico, it would sometimes take 4 hours to show up. And then they would be mad because they had to show up. Well, don't bother us anymore, and you're just like, okay, I pay your damn salary, buddy. But here in Coos County, they've got a quicker response. Sometimes they can get there in 10 minutes. I've seen them get places in 5. But most of the time, what's going to happen happens in those first 2 to 3 minutes. And the only one there to protect yourself, the only first responder you have is you. You are your first responder. And that's why I'm a big defender of the Second Amendment. But I don't know if you've heard about this. All of those skeevy bastards who are coming across our border illegally and breaking our laws, violating our rights, especially people's property rights who live on the border. Well, they're coming over here, and the welfare offices are giving out voter registration forms to illegal immigrants without proof of citizenship. How do you like that? Gee, I don't know who could have predicted this other than everyone on the right. We knew this is why they were bringing it in. I mean, there's several reasons. I think they're bringing in these young men who are of military age because I think some of them are plants by other countries, maybe even the United Nations. Maybe some of them work for the United Nations. Maybe some of them work for the Chinese Communist Party. I'd be willing to bet anyone who wants to take me up on this bet that some of those people work for the Chinese Communist Party, or they work for the United Nations, or they work for some other country. And those governments of other countries have sent these young men here because at some point they know there may be a domestic or a civil war breaking out in the United States. And they want to be instrumental in creating that civil disturbance. I don't want a civil war. You don't want a civil war, but why else would they be bringing all these young men in from all over the place? I mean, one reason is like this story here is they want to give these people voter registration forms so they can interfere in our elections. It's highly illegal. It's another form of election fraud. And on top of it, we have to worry about who these people are who are coming over here. Who the hell are these people? And part of it is because the liberals, they want to create a brown society in America. They are self-hating white people who are opposed to Western civilization. And they want to destroy Western civilization. And how do you destroy a Western country? How do you destroy that better than bringing in people from the third world? Well, that's how you do it, pretty much. And then you give them money for food, for cars, for housing, to school their children. And then, of course, you hand them a voter registration form. You know what kills me is this is the welfare offices. Why are illegal aliens getting welfare? That would be my first damn question. Of course, we know why. It's the browning of America. It's the destruction of Western civilization. But non-citizens are getting voter registration forms all over the U.S. through welfare agencies without requiring proof of citizenship. Well, of course not. Only I have to show an ID if I go to a welfare office. You and I are probably the only ones who have to do that. But in every state, with the exception of Arizona, Applicants for welfare benefits or driver's license can receive voter registration forms without needing proof of citizenship. Well, well, well. Who would have guessed that? Like I said, except everyone on the right. We all guessed that. We all knew what was happening. Under current law, there is no requirement to give proof of citizenship on voter registration forms. Nope. Even though it is illegal for non-citizens to claim they are a citizen in order to vote in a federal election. That it shouldn't be just a federal election. That should be for local elections. But there are cities out there who now are allowing illegal aliens to vote in their local elections. But for federal elections, it's still illegal. Per a new, and this is from a report from New York that just came out, the New York Post. However, millions of immigrants, both illegal and illegal, are sometimes eligible for welfare benefits that allow them to obtain voter registration forms. Well, first off, why is any legal or illegal person getting welfare? That should get you kicked the hell out of the country in the first place. You know, I've been to Mexico, but I haven't been to too many other countries. I like the continental United States. And if I did go to other countries, I sure as hell wouldn't be asking them to pay some welfare to me. That would just be odd. Let me come to your country. I want you to pay for my education. I want you to pay for my health care. And then I want you to give me welfare. And could you kiss my curvy ass while you're at it? I mean, who does that? Well, these filthy, skeevy, illegal aliens. And they are skeevy because they're violating our laws just by coming here. But the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 required that states register voters either at agencies where people can apply for public benefits or at the Department of Motor Vehicles. So you can go back to 1993. This is how long this has been in plan. And they finally got a president stupid enough to actually go through with the plan. And now we're living with the situation that the leftists have created and been designing for a long time. The destruction of our country, the destruction of Western civilization, the destruction of a constitutional republic with a constitution specifically written to limit government and protect the rights of the individual. Of course, we don't follow that anymore. We don't follow that at all. That's just crazy talk. Crazy talk, I tell you. Follow the Constitution. Who's going to do that? I really don't know. And so those are just some of the things I want to, talk to you today about. And hopefully you can go to our event. Like I said, we've got a really good event happening this coming up Monday, and I will be broadcasting from that event. And that is the, let me see if I can find it here. Yep. This is the Dr. Frank event. This coming up Monday, 6:30. July 1st at the Restoration Worship Center. I think I've said it correctly each and every time, except for when I meant to mispronounce it. Yeah, I actually think I've done quite well with the Restoration Worship Center. I'm going to have to call Pastor Dan and see if we can shorten that to something. I don't know what, but boy, it's a mouthful. But they were generous enough, the Restoration Worship Center was generous enough to allow Dr. Douglas Frank to show up at 6:30 next week, July 1st. I highly recommend you show up there. Remember, the show isn't going to come on until 6 o'clock next week. We're going to try to get an interview with Douglas Frank. I will be posting that everywhere because I want people to know that. And, Alex Bowser, you've got some wise comments. You've been a very good responder today. I mean, you've nailed a lot of stuff here. But lock and load, when I was talking about the illegal immigrants and the Second Amendment, yes, lock and load, definitely. I came from the big city and I used to not carry a gun, but now I carry a gun on a regular basis. I got a gun strapped to me right now all the time. And I mow my yard, I've got a gun on me. And, maybe I'm paranoid, but then when you've got people who've threatened your life, who said they're going to step on your throat and shove things up your wazoo and do horrible things to you and your family, after you get a couple, threats like that from crazy leftists or just crazy criminals, you kind of get a little paranoid. And so you start carrying weapons. So lock and load. Yes, I would recommend everyone lock and load. And I think we would be a better society if we were an armed society and everyone out there knew we were an armed society. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We are in big trouble. Yeah, Alex, we are in huge trouble. But I think we're going to win this. I mean, you know, I hope we can do something politically to stop this nonsense. But if not, and it comes down to blows, I think that the right is going to win this. I think, you know, we're the ones who own most of the guns. We're the ones who teach our young boys to be men and our young ladies to be women. And I think because we have morals and codes and ethics that we live by, I think eventually we will win because we are just a stronger group of people. We're the producers. Most of the leftists are the takers. We're the producer, they're the takers. So when it comes down to the hard fight, if it has to be fought in the street, I'm not too worried. I think that we'll just be able to take care of that. And let's see. Oh, well, guess we are preaching to the choir. Yeah. Well, isn't that the truth? Thanks, Rob. I like this chat. I like this chat too. It's always interesting. And so, you know, it's that time again. I want to thank all of you for joining me because, you know, without you, really, what kind of show would it be? What kind of show would I have here? I don't know, but it'd be a lonely show. Or Oregon Outlaw. And I want to thank all you guys for being on there because it's just entertaining for me. And I'll be back next week, next Monday at 6 o'clock. And we're going to have the Friday night rant. Oh, by the way, if you didn't catch Friday night's show, you got to catch it. I talked to a woman who says her mother was abducted by aliens, and because of this abduction, her and her mother now have the capability of communicating with those aliens. You know, what the hell? Who am I to judge these people? She might be right. Maybe she's calling and talking to the aliens. I asked her to put in a call for me and see if they would allow me inside their intergalactic space zoo. I want to be the human exhibit. I figure if the aliens are going to take over mankind, they may actually destroy us, and they may need some for their intergalactic zoo. And I figure I'd be treated well in my zoo. You know, maybe they'd feed me steaks and good food and, you know, all the time because, you know, they got to take care of those zoo animals. So I asked her to tell, you know, I asked her to tell the aliens that I'm more than happy to become the #1 exhibit of Earthlings in their intergalactic zoo. So, you know, I don't know. What can I say? I'm the selfish bastard. And if someone's got to sacrifice and the rest of us have to perish, I'd sooner be the one who sacrifices. And, you know, that's just the way it goes. That's the kind of guy I am. I'll be living in the intergalactic zoo and Earth will be blown up by these beings. But no, just joking. Actually, she was saying that these beings are very benevolent beings, the theologians of Orion. I don't know if they exist, but it was a good story. And if you want to hear the story, go to Rumble, on my Rumble page, and check out the video, because the video is excellent. The video is just absolutely remarkable. We got into it was a weird discussion. You know, when you got to go along with these people, okay, you know, it's like the flat earthers. I've got friends who are actual flat earthers, and, you know, you just smile and go along with it. Oh, okay, yeah, the earth is flat, sure, whatever, you know, let's hear your proof. And of course, in the end, I always say, you know, I don't agree with you at all, but I listen to you, and that's the best I can do. So I wanted to listen to this lady. You know, I got a friend, Stan Avery. He believes in Bigfoot. He believes Bigfoot is out there. And I think he's actually, if I remember correct, on my show, he has said he has seen Bigfoot. You know, I don't know why every picture of Bigfoot is always blurry. Have you ever noticed that? Why can't they get a good picture of Bigfoot? Why wouldn't they have been able to do that in the last 10 years when everyone's got a cell phone in their hand? I mean, this elusive creature, Bigfoot, if it exists, I don't know. You know, I was talking to Matt Holman from 3H Tree Service, and he says 2 things he's never found in the tree, and that's a cat head or a Bigfoot skeleton. Nope, no Bigfoot skeletons or cat heads in the trees. Kind of makes you wonder, if all those cats are getting stuck in trees, why don't we ever see cat skulls in those trees? I don't know. It just seems a little weird. But, and speaking of Matt Holman, like I said, we got a winner for 3H Tree Service. we'll get a picture next week, hopefully. And I want to give them credit for being my sponsors because they are badass sponsors. What can I tell you? And if you want to get those trees taken out, go to call 541-294-1800. Give a call to 541-294-1800 to 3H Tree Service and ask for Matt Holman. And next week, I don't know how we're going to play Where's 3H Tree Service because I'm going to be having the show on at a different time. So I'll have to call Matt and figure that out. But we'll do an advertisement for him because he's my sponsor and he's kick-ass. And if you need those trees removed with surgical precision, Matt can do it. He is badass. 3H Tree Service, 541-294-1800. He'll come out there, clear those trees, and do it at a very fair cost. I highly recommend the 3H Tree Service people. And of course, Tom and Gigs. I talked to Josh, or I texted Josh, and he said that Tim couldn't come on the show. He's really busy. But that's okay because he's fixing cars and he's a good mechanic and you want him fixing cars. He can take care of your mufflers. He can take care of all your automotive needs, most of your automotive needs. Fix your tonneau covers, get you a new tonneau cover, get you some side rails for your truck. You need some of that. I'm going to put some side rails on my Sentra. Yes, I've got my Sentra. I think I'll put some side rails on that. I don't know. It's going to be freaky deaky, but that's just the way I roll. Put a light bar, because you can get light bars at Tom and Gigs. I think I'm going to get a big ass light bar and step rails, side rails for my Sentra. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. All right. But if you really seriously want to get your car fixed, I recommend Tom and Gigs. They are incredible mechanics. They can do alignments. They can inspect your car and let you know whether you're safe to go and travel. They're great for doing things like that. You can get an RC car, a remote control car there. They've got all those really cool remote control cars and any part that you need. If you're into remote control cars and you need a part, Tom and Gigs is the place to go. 135 South Shoneman Street, Coos Bay, Oregon. That's once again 135 South Shoneman Street, Coos Bay, Oregon. Highly recommend Tom and Gigs. And of course, Herbal Choices Cannabis. They have 5 stores, one in south of Bandon. They have one in Coos Bay. They have one in North Bend. They have one in Charleston, and they have one in Reedsport. And I highly recommend all of the Herbal Choices stores. They are good. And don't fall for the phony Herbal Choices store. Look for it. The name Herbal Choices for it to be an Herbal Choices store. There are some people have tried to steal the name, tried to steal the emblem. They just can't do it. And unlike LaModa, most of their money, it's used to grow the business. It's not used to give to Democrats. They're not giving that cannabis money to Democrats at Herbal Choices. So that's one reason to go to Herbal Choices. You'll have to take that up with LaModa, because I personally want to go somewhere where my money is not going to a bunch of skeevy leftists. I want to go to Herbal Choices where they've got the best variety and the best deals you can get. Herbal Choices for all your cannabis needs. And of course, I want to recommend Oregon Firearms Federation, the only no compromise gun group in Oregon. And Kevin Starrett, who's the director of Oregon Firearms Federation, we're going to ask him about that Supreme Court ruling. We're going to get his opinion on it. Like I said, I'm with Clarence Thomas. I'm totally with Judge Clarence Thomas. I would have been the dissent on that, but that's okay. You can't win them all. You can't win them all, man. That's just the way the world goes. But if you want to give some money to a good group that's defending your Second Amendment rights, I would highly recommend giving to Oregon Firearms Federation. They are the real deal. I don't know how else to explain it, but they're a group that you need to give money to. They're in the court fighting against all these crazy laws that the leftists are passing in the legislature, and they're going to keep fighting that. So if you want to give to a good group, Oregon Firearms Federation, and they're not my sponsors, but I do like to talk about them. Bandon Gun Club, if you live in Bandon or the surrounding area, or heck, you want to visit from another state and go to the Bandon Gun Club, I'm sure they would allow you to buy membership and participate at their gun club. And you can find out more at the bandongunclub.org website. That's the bandongunclub.org website. And if you want to sight in your rifle, They have a 100-yard rifle range at the Tioga Sports Park, and you can reach them at tiogasportspark.org. And check out their website before you go, because they're not always open, usually on the weekends, but there's a lot of times during the week that they're not open, and that's because they don't have a lot of volunteers. And if you want to volunteer, you can do that. If you want to go out there and help out at the shooting range, tiogasportspark.org would be the place to go. That's the website. Go check it out and let them know that you want to volunteer for such a great endeavor as helping people become more proficient with their rifles and their handguns. What a great place. What a great place that is. And of course, it's that time again when I gotta go. I'm gonna go have dinner. I wonder what's for dinner. I don't know. I didn't make anything yet, so I haven't decided what's for dinner. I guess I'll find out. So remember, next week, the show won't start until about 6 o'clock, maybe 6:30. I think it'll be 6 o'clock, though. So I hope you tune in for Friday night at 8 o'clock on Rumble, on YouTube, on X. You can find the Rob Taylor Report. And, you know how it always goes, folks. Until next time, carry on, America. Carry on.